end game is about the ability to understand the true history, not just the part of history that we have been taught. And that is the difficulty. So you're talking about who's the apology for. Well, the apology is for me. The apology is for those who have suffered. The apology is for those who continue to struggle through colonialism and through slavery. And I do think that it's important that royalty are coming forward and saying, we apologise for the part that we played.
All right, so is that it? Is that enough? When is enough enough?
What you are about to witness is a lesson delivered to lawyer and talk TV contributor Paula Rhone-Adrien on the topic of slavery. Douglas Murray is about to educate her on the realities of world history and the shared experiences of oppression and slavery that have affected multiple races throughout time.
Well, it's a kind of grievance competition. Your guest earlier just tried to engage in it. I don't know what hurt she believes she's had from slavery. All of this was addressed 2 centuries ago. Everything has consequences. All history has consequences and ramifications. But, you know, if we were to play this fairly, we would at least look at all of the countries around the world that engaged in the slave trade who are simply not interested in any form of reparations. The Ottoman Empire, all the Arab countries who not just traded far more slaves than across the Atlantic, but castrated all the men so that there wouldn't be any more African slaves after them. They worked them to the bone. I see no interest across Africa in paying reparations for selling their brother and sister Africans into slavery or for working them to the bone to the present day. There is slavery across Africa today. In fact, there are more slaves in the world today than there were at the height of the transatlantic slave trade. So some of us are simply a bit bored of hearing people ripping at closed wounds and then crying about their hurt or their presumed hurt, because everybody could do this. 1 million Europeans were stolen by North Africans over the course of decades of the North African Barbary pirate slave trade. Where would you end if you did that? The answer is you couldn't end, because nobody is alive who has actually suffered the hurt, and nobody is alive who did the wrong. And I'd make one other point, if I may. It's always the countries that people want to come to who are put through this struggle session. Britain, like America and France, are the most desired destinations for migrants worldwide and have been for centuries. Why is that? It's not because we're racist, it's because we're better. It's because we're good. It's because when we see racism, we actually call it out and recognize it as a sin. Try finding that across Africa. Try finding that across the Middle East or in China. Nobody would hear. So what we have is a situation where the more virtuous countries are presented as the worst countries. It's sick, and most of us are tired of it.
Following this factual history lesson, one might expect Paula's response to be something like, "Wow, I didn't know that," or "Interesting, I'll research that and get back to you," or "You've got a point, my apologies." However, her actual response highlights the true meaning of denialism and reveals someone who appears more interested in perpetuating racial division.
I am so sorry that Douglas is bored by the pain that has come from
That's not what he said.
Through slavery.
He didn't say. But what you're doing there, yeah, but hang on, Paula. Paula, you're being very disingenuous. That's not what he said.
I am.
And viewers aren't stupid. They know exactly what he said. He's not saying he's bored by the pain. He's saying, and I think it's a perfectly valid point, the pain that people who are alive today are claiming they're suffering for what happened 200 or 300 years is not a real pain. They're not the ones who suffered what was going on 200 or 300 years ago.
So in terms of justice for all, I mean, I think we'd all agree that there should be justice.
Well, I'm not suffering from when the Normans invaded this country.
Agree.
I'm not suffering from what my ancestors went through.
I noticed that I'm not being allowed to respond.
Or from the Romans. In other words, where do you take this?
Her reaction demonstrates that when dealing with individuals who dismiss historical facts, you are often confronting those who thrive on the attention derived from victimhood. These individuals seem less concerned with acknowledging that slavery and oppression have affected every race at some point in history. Instead, they focus exclusively on their own race's suffering and what reparations or advantages they can extract from past injustices. This approach, hundreds of years later, comes across as disingenuous and reflects traits of opportunism or grifting. Or perhaps she envisions a world where people no longer greet one another with a simple hello, but instead begin every interaction with, "I'm sorry for my ancestors' oppression." Okay, folks, That's all for now, and always remember,
the work must continue.